He walked in while I was still wrapped in a towel. My body froze, but his eyes didn't. He wasn't supposed to be there, not that early, not that quiet, and definitely not in my hallway. What made it worse was the truth I couldn't ignore. He wasn't my boyfriend, he wasn't even single, and neither was I. At first, I told myself it was an accident, that I had simply forgotten to lock the bathroom door after my shower. But deep down, I knew I had wanted him to see me, even if it risked destroying everything. It had started 4 months earlier, when Blake moved into the guest house behind our home. Blake was my boyfriend Adam's younger brother, the kind of man who carried an energy that pulled people in. He was quick-witted, unpredictable, and just dangerous enough to keep your attention. Adam was the opposite. We had been together for 2 years, sharing routines, a dog named Molly, and a comfortable, safe life. Adam planned everything. Blake rewrote the rules without asking. When their father died suddenly, Blake returned from Oregon to be closer to family. Adam offered him the guest house, and I agreed, not thinking much of it. At first, things were normal. He stayed to himself, and I pretended not to notice how good he looked chopping wood in the yard, or how his smile lingered a little too long when he passed me by the mailbox, or how he always asked about my day, and actually listened. It began with small things. A glance that lasted longer than it should. A private joke that no one else caught. A touch that stayed on my skin even after it was gone. Tension has a way of finding cracks, and ours widened on the night of a storm. Adam was stranded in Chicago because of weather delays, Molly wouldn't stop barking at the wind, and the house went dark when the power failed. I was lighting candles when I heard a knock at the sliding glass door. It was Blake, holding a flashlight and a bottle of red wine. "Power's out in the guest house too," he said. "Thought we could ride it out together." I should have said no. I should have remembered how candlelight softens everything, how wine blurs judgment, how loneliness makes a voice sound warmer than it should. He told me, "You look different in this light." We didn't kiss that night, not even close, but something shifted. The silence between us became heavy with a question neither of us dared to ask. The next day, I tried to convince myself I had imagined it, but I hadn't. The next time Adam left on a trip, Blake brought me coffee before I could even turn on the machine. He stayed, telling me stories of his travels, wild, unpredictable nights by the ocean, fights in bars, sleeping under stars in strange places. Then he asked, "Do you ever feel like you settled too early?" He didn't look at me when he said it, but my silence was enough of an answer. 2 weeks later came the towel incident. Adam had gone to Maine for the weekend to visit his mother. After a late yoga session, I showered and stepped into the hallway humming softly, wrapped in white terry cloth. That's when I saw Blake at the top of the stairs, standing still, eyes fixed on me like he had been caught in a moment he couldn't step out of. "I thought you were out," he said quietly. But neither of us looked away. I didn't scream. I didn't run to cover myself. I didn't even try to look embarrassed that day in the hallway. Instead, I forced a small smile and said, "Well, now you're in. Want coffee?" What followed wasn't physical, but it was no less dangerous. That weekend became a blur of shared meals, inside jokes, and long silences that said too much. He never stayed the night, but it felt like he never truly left either. By the time Adam came home, I was already in deep. Not in love, not yet, but caught in something I couldn't name and couldn't stop. The guilt rolled over me in waves. I would lie next to Adam, listening to his steady breathing, wondering how I had become the kind of person who smiled too brightly at someone else's brother. It all came to a breaking point on our anniversary. Adam had planned the night perfectly, steak, candles, jazz spinning on the record player. Then Blake sent a text, "Power's out again. Think I tripped the breaker. Can you check?" I told Adam I'd only be gone a few minutes. But what I found in the guest house wasn't a broken breaker. The room was lit with candles, and on the table was a single Polaroid. It was me, wrapped in the towel, from that day in the hallway. My heart stopped as I stared at it. Then Blake stepped out from the shadows and said softly, "I couldn't stop thinking about it. About you." I wanted to be furious. I wanted to walk away. But I didn't. Instead, I whispered, "You're playing with fire." And he answered, "Then burn with me." We didn't cross the line physically that night, but something even more dangerous happened. I let him all the way in. I told him my fears, my regrets, the dreams I had never spoken aloud. He shared his own secrets too, and for a few hours, it felt like we existed in a world apart from everything else. When I finally returned home, Adam was asleep on the couch. The untouched slice of cake he had set aside for me still sat on the table. That image cut deeper than I expected, and it never left me. But the haunting didn't stop there. 2 days later, Adam found the Polaroid. I had hidden it poorly, behind an old cookbook in the pantry. He held it like it was poison and asked quietly, "Who took this?" I lied. I said it must have been old, from years ago. But the timestamp told the truth. Adam wasn't a fool. He didn't shout or accuse. He just packed a bag and walked out. Not forever, but for space. Blake didn't gloat, didn't smile in victory. He moved back into the guesthouse with a silence that almost looked like shame. I didn't know what to do. I had betrayed someone who loved me, and I wasn't even sure I loved the man I had risked everything for. Then came the voicemail. It was from Adam's ex, a woman I had never met. Her voice was cold, almost satisfied. "Now you know how it feels. He did it to me with you." The phone slipped from my hand as her words sank in. Was this karma? A chain of betrayal passing from one heart to the next? I sat alone in the dark, asking myself whether I was the villain or the victim. The truth I feared was that I was both. The next morning, Blake showed up at my door with 2 coffees in hand and a nervous smile on his face. When Blake handed me the coffee, he asked softly, "You okay?" I looked at him, then at the steam rising from the cup, and for the first time in weeks, I told the truth. "I don't know." The silence that morning was heavy, the kind that makes even your breathing sound suspicious. I stared at the mug in front of me, but I didn't want it. I didn't want comfort from the man who had helped shatter the life I had built. Or maybe I was the one who had shattered it. Maybe we both had blood on our hands. Either way, I wasn't thirsty for coffee. I was thirsty for answers. "I need time," I finally said, keeping my eyes down. He nodded slightly. "I figured. That's why I came, to say I'm backing off." His words stunned me. Blake, the unpredictable one, choosing distance instead of fire. He set the cup down and left. Underneath it, on a napkin, he had scribbled a note, "If this is the end, I get it." But it didn't start as a game for me. The rest of the day I wandered in a haze, replaying everything, the stolen looks, the inside jokes, the tension that had been thick enough to choke on. Had I been nothing more than a thrill? A rebellion against his picture-perfect older brother? That night, I finally reached out to Adam. "Can we talk? Face to face?" His reply didn't come until the next morning. "You're not who I thought." But yes. We met at a diner near the train station, a place that felt neutral enough to hold the wreckage between us. When I saw Adam at the diner, he looked older, as if 5 days had taken 5 years from him. He wasn't raging anymore, just tired. He stirred his black coffee slowly and said, "I won't ask for details. But I need to know, was it love?" I could have lied, but lies and silence were what had started this whole unraveling. So I told him, "I don't know. I think it was something I mistook for freedom. Or escape. Or maybe just something that reminded me I was still alive." He flinched but nodded. "You know what hurts the most?" he asked. "It's not that it was Blake. It's that I thought you were happy. I thought we were happy. On paper, he was right. We were the kind of couple who had everything lined up, steady jobs, matching toothbrush cups, a dog, a neat little future. The kind of love that could sit comfortably in a framed photo on a mantle. But maybe that was the problem. I had been living inside the frame, never outside it. "I did love you," I whispered. "I believe you," he said softly. "But love without truth is just decoration." That line struck me harder than I expected. We left the diner with no promises, no talk of someday. Just silence and separate checks. As the weeks went on, the scandal dulled. Family never mentioned it. Friends pretended not to know. Adam moved into a condo across town. And Blake, he disappeared. No goodbye, just a voicemail saying he had taken a job in Seattle, that it was better for everyone. The emptiness he left behind was almost louder than his presence. Until one day, a letter arrived. No return address, just his handwriting. "You were never just a phase. But I think we both knew our timing was cursed. If I ever meant something real to you, then do something good with the pain. Don't waste it. Love isn't always clean, but it should always teach you something. Burn bright, not out." I read those words over and over, letting them sink into me. He was right. This was never just about choosing between two brothers. It wasn't about tells or glances or nights that blurred the line between right and wrong. It was about me, about the parts of myself I had buried, the restless, uncertain pieces that craved danger only because I hadn't yet made peace with stability. I began therapy soon after. Weekly sessions filled with hard truths and too many tears, but slowly, I started to rebuild. Not with another man, not with a rebound, just with myself. And with Molly, the dog Adam had left behind. Maybe it was out of kindness, or maybe as a quiet reminder of the life I had broken. I kept the Polaroid, not because I wanted to cling to that memory, but because I needed to. It became a warning to myself, proof of what happens when desire grows louder than dignity, when escape feels easier than honesty, when love is treated like a thrill instead of a foundation. Months passed. One evening, while walking Molly, I ran into Adam. He looked good, calmer, softer somehow. He smiled, the kind of smile that belonged to someone who had found forgiveness, even if not for me, at least for himself. "Hey," he said. Then, after a pause, he asked, "How's Blake?" "Gone," I answered. "Seattle." He nodded slowly, then said, "Sometimes I wonder if what broke us wasn't what happened between you two, but what never happened between us." His words hit harder than I expected. He was right, we had never really spoken the truth to each other, not until it was already too late. We stood in silence until he finally said something that surprised me. "I'm glad you figured yourself out, even if it took breaking both of us to do it." That's the strange thing about betrayal, it doesn't always end in hatred. Sometimes, it leaves behind a kind of reluctant respect. I never saw Blake again. Not face to face. But one day, a postcard arrived. No return address, just an image of a redwood forest and one line written in his hand, "Still burning. Hope you are too." And I was. But this time, I was burning for myself, for truth, for growth, for the kind of love that doesn't hide behind accidents or closed doors or towels. The kind that walks in openly, clothed in honesty, and chooses to stay. Thank you so much for staying with us through this story. Life, love, and betrayal are never simple, but every story reminds us of the lessons hidden within our choices. If you found yourself touched, moved, or even challenged by what you heard today, we invite you to stay connected with us. Your support means everything. Please remember to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss more powerful and thought-provoking stories like this one. Every subscription, every like, and every share helps us keep bringing you the stories that matter. From all of us here, thank you for watching, and we look forward to sharing the next story with you soon.